Amy Rose is one of the most iconic characters in the Sonic franchise. She's definitely a staple, and she's appeared in most of the games. If you've been following the series, you would know that Amy was originally introduced as Sonic's lover / number one fangirl. It was pretty much her main trait. Yuji Naka, the original creator of Sonic the Hedgehog, stated on different occasions that Amy was meant to have a one-way relationship with Sonic, due to his carefree and speedy attitude. Therefore, for a long time, this is how Amy was portrayed in the series, whether it be the video games, the comics, or the TV shows. However, many are claiming that Sega changed her personality as of recent, and they're even saying that she's become more like Sally Acorn, who's another classic and iconic character in the Sonic franchise. I'll go into more detail about her later. One of the main questions though is, when did Amy change? And has Sega actually confronted themselves that she's changed? On the 21st of February in 2020, the official Sonic the Hedgehog channel uploaded a video called Sonic 101, a brief history of Sonic the Hedgehog. In the video, when it gets to the description of Amy, the narrator says this:
Amy Rose has matured into an independent hedgehog with a strong sense of justice. Make sure to stay on her good side or you'll come face to face with her Pico Pico hammer.
As he said, she's matured into an independent hedgehog with a strong sense of justice. A description like this is a lot different from Amy's original description given by Yuji Naka. They've pretty much confirmed that Amy's changed in character and has matured. They didn't even mention her love interest for Sonic, which is what she was pretty much built upon. So, as you can see, Amy has officially changed in personality. But why is it that people are complaining about it? And why is it that they're saying that she's a clone of Sally Acorn? Well, let's start off by defining who Sally is. Sally Acorn is an interesting character to talk about. She's not originally from the video games. She actually first appeared in the 1993 Sonic the Hedgehog cartoon, which most of us call Sonic SatAM. The show was short-lived though, only lasting 26 episodes. The reason I say that she's an interesting character to talk about is that she has an even greater prominence in the Sonic the Hedgehog comic book by Archie, which also started in 1993. Therefore, she has varying personalities due to multiple different writers in the comics. Sally's a character who's been bashed for a long time, being called a Mary Sue. For those who don't know what a Mary Sue is, it basically means a female character who is pretty much perfect and has no weakness. Sally is known to be the leader of the resistance called the Freedom Fighters. In the world they live in, Robotnik is taking over the kingdom, and it's up to the Freedom Fighters to stop him and take their world back. Moreover, Sally is the princess of Knothole, so she carries a big responsibility. However, she's down to earth and labeled as a tomboy. We see this in the comics as well, where she would rather have her hair cut low, and she doesn't really like wearing princess-like clothes. You can already see why people would label her as a Mary Sue, but we can still look for more reason why that may be the case. But before we do that, we don't want to get sidetracked. This video itself is meant to be a comparison between Sally and Amy. It's important to see if they're both Mary Sues though, because that will pretty much answer part of our question and resolve all the arguments people are having about the two characters. But based off what we've said so far, has Amy Rose become Sally Acorn? Well, Amy is not a princess and Sally is, so we have to consider that. Sally also has a tomboyish style, while Amy still seems to dress the same. But one thing to note is that they're both leaders of a resistance. Part of this issue is due to the game Sonic Forces, which has that villain wins, heroes try to take the world back type scenario that Sonic SatAM and the Archie comics already have. Amy was not the leader in that game, however she is leader in the new IDW comics, which contains stories that take place after the events of Sonic Forces. She's become so much of a leader that she would turn down an offer to spend time with Sonic in favor of returning back to the resistance. It's definitely a change in character to say the least. Now that we've briefly defined each character, let's dig a little deeper to see if they're truly similar. Sally had gone for years since being called a textbook example of a Mary Sue. If that's what most people think about her, then let's find out what the true definition of a Mary Sue is. And let's also see if this new version of Amy Rose applies to this. This channel, IDR Labs, does several videos depicting which characters are Mary Sues, and they have their own index for it, so let's follow theirs. I'm also going to reference a journal from Shanaha T on DeviantArt, who really helped with finding evidence in relation to Sally, and followed IDR Labs' format, so credit to her for the sources. I'll link the journal in the description below. These are the 7 categories. 1. Is she overpowered? 2. Is there an explanation for her abilities? 3. Is she perfectly nice? 4. Does she have a personality? 5. Is she instantly liked? 6. Does she have wish fulfillment? And 7. Does she fail or feel embarrassed from time to time? Let's begin. Amy was first depicted as practically powerless in Sonic CD. She played the damsel in distress role. However, as the games progressed, Amy became one of the main strong characters, and this was before her change in personality. Her Pico Pico hammer is pretty ruthless. In shows like Sonic X, it can knock Eggman's entire ship back, though it was most likely for comedic relief. Still, it doesn't mean she can defeat any enemy, but since we're talking about the new Amy, she hasn't really shown any true signs of weakness yet. She's an exceptional leader and played a very important role in the Zomba arc, practically holding the resistance by her shoulders. Of course, she can still get overwhelmed and need support of others at times. Therefore, the answer is yes, she is overpowered, but mainly personality-wise. I'm gonna give her a 0.5 instead of the full 1 point because it's mainly based on personality that she's overpowered and not necessarily through her abilities. Sally is also a character that gets captured from time to time, but she is well known for being an excellent fighter and tactician. She knows many martial arts techniques. Her post-reboot version is also good with using swords. She's very analytical and uses an AI named Nicole to help her. She could also use the Sword of Acorns, which is a very powerful weapon which can mess with reality itself, so yeah, she's pretty overpowered. Sally gets 1 point. As we discussed before, Sega has told us that Amy has developed to be an independent person, but they never really explain how. It would make sense for Amy to gain leadership skills due to the events of Sonic Forces, but it's very glossed out and immediate. The comics also explain that Amy's become independent, but there's no depiction of her transformation, so the answer is no. In the Archie comics, Sally was said to be trained by multiple people to gain her martial arts skills, one of them being her mentor, Jalila. But even still, it doesn't make up for her other abilities, which include her leadership and intelligence. She's just naturally capable. So the answer is no, there isn't any real explanation for her abilities. Once again, if you were talking about the old Amy, she definitely had a meaner personality, at least when it came to people who were trying to go after Sonic. It's definitely shown in the game Sonic Heroes, where she will fight anyone looking for Sonic, and will even fight Sonic to convince him to marry her. But this is a new version of Amy, and this version of Amy hasn't really shown any cases where she's been truly mean. She's very supportive of her members at the Resistance, cheering them on and such. So yes, she's perfectly nice. Like I said before, Sally has had multiple different writers in the Archie comics, so her personality changes over time. In general, she's definitely not a pushover, but she's certainly nice to her friends. We see this in Sonic SatAM, where she helps raise Tails, even giving him funny kisses. Sure, she's had a moment where she lashed out at Sonic for choosing Robotnik over her, but like I said, different personalities. And she's nice enough to sacrifice herself for the world, causing her to become roboticized, which happens in the Sonic the Hedgehog Archie comics. The answer is yes. She is perfectly nice. It's a bit of a rough case for Amy. It's true that she's toned down her affection for Sonic, but that doesn't really mean that she has no personality at all. She's not some character that questions herself, asking questions such as, who am I, what am I? She knows who she is and what she has to do, and she definitely still has the cute and cheerful behavior when fighting robots. She also has some added sass as well. So, since she has a personality, I won't give her any Mary Sue points for that. A lot of people may argue that Sally doesn't have a personality, and that she only plays the role of leader. While this is somewhat true in the Sonic SatAM series, It's a bit different in the Archie comics. She goes through many emotional phases, mainly relating to her relationship with Sonic, as seen in Archie Sonic 134, which I explained earlier. Archie Sonic 134 is the comic where Sally lashed out on Sonic. She also gets into a lot of couple drama, feeling some type of way when Sonic would go after other girls instead of her. She's even displayed as naive in some occasions, and Dr. Eggman also notes this in issue 225. The answer is yes, she does have a personality, so no Mary Sue points for her. Amy hasn't had too many first-time meetings and interactions in the IDW comics, so it's kinda hard to say for her. I have to say no for this one because there's not enough information. Because Sally is a princess, you'd think she'll be instantly liked, and actually this is the case in most scenarios, with people realizing she's a princess or attractive and warming up to her for that reason. This is shown in the Archie Sonic issues such as issue 20, where Jeffrey St. John was defensive against Sally, but lightened up after she revealed she was a princess. At the same time though, not many have liked her on first sight, technically. Therefore, I'll give Sally 0.5 points. For those who don't know what wish fulfillment is, it's essentially the creator of the story making a story or artwork that addresses an outcome that the author wants for a character. Old Amy never got her wish to marry Sonic or get Sonic to love her, even despite the subtle hints that some games teased, such as Sonic Chronicles, where Sonic is given the option to make Amy his girlfriend. But IDW Amy is written as a more laid-back version of herself, on her desire for Sonic at least, putting her resistance work first. There are some hints that Sonic may have a thing for Amy in the comic, but it's nothing really concrete. The answer is no, so no points for Amy. Sally does have a pretty blatant case of wish fulfillment. In the 20 years later stories, Sally is married to Sonic for most of it. However, that doesn't mean Sally hadn't struggled to get to that point. She's wound up dating other guys and being forced into relationships, like the issues where she was being forced to marry Shadow. She got back with Sonic at the end of the day though. I'll give her a 0.5 because a large portion of the comic relates to her being shifty in terms of relationships. Plus, the 20 years later stories were said to take place in an alternate timeline. In the main timeline, Sally turns into a robot and never gets the chance to recover due to the comics being cancelled. Yes, she fails in the sense of not being able to save everyone. That much is visible in the Zomba arc where she couldn't save Cream's mother, Vanilla, so 0 Mary Sue points for Amy. Yes, Sally has failed multiple times. There are too many to know here, but one of them, for example, is in the post-Genesis timeline, where Sally's plan to retrieve a Chaos Emerald from Dr. Eggman leads to an obvious trap, getting ambushed by robots. 0 Mary Sue points for Sally. Let's look at the final results. Amy is a 2.5 out of 7, which is 35% a Mary Sue. Sally is a 4 out of 7, which is a 57% a Mary Sue. They're 22% apart from being similar to each other in that aspect. With that being said, it's safe to say that Amy is still somewhat of a different character from Sally. However, she's a lot closer to being Sally than her old personality would be. At the end of the day, we can conclude these two characters are different. Personally, I like the idea of Amy maturing, and at some point she would really have to because it would show character development and growth. But I do wish the writers of the Sonic comics fleshed this out some more, instead of instantly making her this way without build-up. But that's just my opinion. So what do you guys think about this? Do you like Amy's new personality? Do you think it still resembles Sally's? Let me know in the comment section down below, and thank you for watching.